and welcome to another episode of Memories to Matches. Matt's on here. So this was probably like a strange one for a lot of people, but I wanted to go back and rewatch Starrcade 1985, Tully Blanchard versus Magnum T.A. I believe it's for the United States title inside a steel cage, and it was an I Quit match. Like, the gimmicks are stacked on this thing. If you don't know, Magnum T.A. was definitely a ripoff of Magnum P.I., the TV show, except that he was like all blonde and all Texan. And Tully Blanchard's one of the Four Horsemen, but goddamn, he was really good. He was way ahead of his time. Just an excellent wrestler and performer all around. This is a match that I saw when I was, it was like maybe 10 years ago. Like, it's been a long time since I saw this. I actually had purchased a WWE like best of cage matches thing, and this was on there, and this always stood out as an amazing cage match to me. So I went back and watched it on the network. They do have it in full. It's just as good as I remember. This match, it has to be my favorite cage match of all time. Like, this cage match, this is how cage matches should be. See, now, when you have cage matches today, one, they don't have blood, and the entire gimmick of a cage match is the very fact that there's just steel surrounding the ring. So guys are gonna get cut up, they're gonna get fucked up. That's how it's gonna happen. Needless to say, the amount of blood and brutality in this match is unbelievable. This is not a wrestling match. This is a wrestling brawl, for sure. There's one quote in there where the announcer says that like, oh, well, this is turned into a regular brawl. This is not a regular brawl. This is brutal. This is two dudes that fucking hate each other. But let's get into the match here. The champion was Tully Blanchard, and Magnum T.A. was challenging for it. This was a really long feud from what I remember. This is way before my time. Obviously, I was 1 year old, or 1 year's old, whatever old, when this came out. You know, obviously this is before I watched wrestling or anything like that. To me, here's some things that stood out. There was one moment that I didn't really understand at first, and maybe I'm looking too far into it, but there was a point where, because they kept saying that the only way to lose the match is if you say I quit or admit defeat into the microphone. And then they didn't end up using the microphone at the end, but I mean, like I said, it's nitpicky. But the moment I'm talking about is the first time they get the microphone into play, they go to use it, and I don't remember who it was using it on who, but the referee grabs the mic and kind of pulls it away because they didn't quit. And they spent like 2 minutes, a 2-minute shot of Earl Hebner, I believe it was, just sitting there playing around with the microphone. He even goes like, blows into it to make sure it's working. I don't know what they were doing. Like, and they focused on him so much. Like, why didn't they just focus on the wrestlers while he was doing it? My only guess is if it was intentional, they were probably trying to really get across the fact that there was a microphone there. Like, they wanted people to see that there was a microphone that they would use to give up. But they never really focused on it again other than that. The story here is that Magnum T.A., although not a bad wrestler by any means, he's not as good as Tully Blanchard. Tully Blanchard is obviously the much better technician / wrestler than Magnum is. And it shows, because in this match, Magnum's using just pure brute force to take down Tully, which is like, that's a good trait for a babyface. But every time that Magnum starts to get the advantage, Tully basically just owns him with some sort of either hold or takedown, using the cage to his advantage, like pulling the tights and throwing Magnum into the cage. Just really great ring psychology, because when they stand next to each other, Tully doesn't look like he should have a chance. He's much smaller, just about in every way, shape, or form, but his ability to out-wrestle the big man is pretty much what keeps them on par and what keeps them on even playing field with one another. Magnum looks really good, but he's just not in Tully Blanchard's league, and I think it's really obvious in this match. He still holds up really well, but you can tell that Tully was basically carrying this match and making it as good as he was. There's only one real botch in the whole thing. Tully tries to go for a pin, and the only reason that I mention that is because it doesn't really hurt the match or anything. He even sells it. He gets up and he kind of goes like, fuck, like I can't believe I went for the pin. But it's refreshing to watch wrestling where somebody makes a mistake and the crowd doesn't chant you fucked up. It's damn you ECW for forever putting that into our wrestling industry. But on this match, there's so much blood. There's No wrestling moves whatsoever. They just kick, punch, and use the cage to their advantage. That's the way it should be in a cage match, in my opinion. Tully's even bleeding from his arm. It's just brutal to watch. So we got to the end here. Both guys were at some point or another screaming into the microphone in pain and saying that they wouldn't quit, just yelling no. Like, they're not even saying I won't quit. They just like, today, it feels like today when they have these kind of matches, they go, either when they say no, of course, but they'll be like, I don't quit, I'll never get, it's like, just scream, no, because you're in so much pain. You wouldn't be giving them sentences. So, the heel that Tully is, he asks for his manager on the outside to throw in a chair. So she throws in this wooden chair. The moment it hits, it kind of breaks. I'm assuming they gimmicked it up before and kind of made sure that it would break, but it's already pretty broken. He slams it to the mat, and he gets this really, really sharp-looking piece from the leg that broke off. And he goes down and he tries to throw it right in Magnum's face, getting really close. He actually gets him for a couple seconds, and I think they did that on purpose to kind of show that Magnum's a boss and he's not going to give up right away. Magnum, though, being stronger than Tully overall, this is why Tully probably should have stuck to trying to out-wrestle Magnum rather than trying to brute force him. Magnum overpowers Tully. He basically turns it around, grabs that same piece of wood, and he jams it right in Tully Blanchard's head. Maybe 2 seconds in, you can tell he's getting him pretty good. Maybe 2 seconds in, Tully just starts screaming, yes, 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 yes. Not a Daniel Bryan fan, obviously, because it's way before that. But he gives up. Referee calls for the bell. Magnum wins, and Magnum, I love this too, this feels so real. Magnum simply walks over to Tully, he's won already. He grabs Tully by the hair, and he's like, I'm gonna punch him again, but he sees Tully's just sitting there just going, ah, because he's so hurt, he's in such pain. And Magnum just kind of drops him and goes, he walks over, he takes the belt from the ref, throws the belt over his shoulder, and walks out like a boss. Like, he doesn't play up to the fans, he doesn't sit in the ring for an hour. He just walks out victorious because he knows he beat the shit out of Tully Blanchard, left him bloody and screaming in the ring. Basically, he made his point that he was better than Tully in this whole thing. They just don't make wrestling like this anymore, and I don't know if it would even hold up in today's audience at this point if they had something like this. I really do miss blood in wrestling. I don't think that it's something that needs to be done all the time, but when it is done in a cage match, when it's done like this, it's very effective and it works. I would go out on a limb and say that this is my favorite cage match of all time. These guys were awesome together. The crowd was reacting like crazy from the start and the finish. In the middle, they were almost kind of calmed down by the brutality of the match. That was pretty interesting, that like even the crowd was like, oh God, like this, there's a lot of blood in that ring. But this is almost a perfect match. If I had to rate it, overall, I'm gonna give this one a very high 5 out of 5. I think that the botch pin kind of was weird. The ref playing with the mic was a little strange. Other than that, though, this is a fucking awesome match. I love it. I highly recommend you check out Magnum T.A. versus Tully Blanchard from WCW Starrcade 1985. If you have seen this one, what are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments down below. And do you have any other favorite Magnum T.A. or Tully Blanchard matches? Let me know as well. Thank you for watching here on Jobber Radio. We'll see you on the next episode.